This game is just that. A game. There is no fluff, there is no story, only the very bare minimum to understand the setting or what you're doing at all times. For those of you who've played the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but for those of you who don't, Vampire Survivors kind of feels like this. No instructions, no tutorial, nothing. There's the game and there's you and an intense stare down to see which one of you will come out on top. And that's what makes Vampire Survivors one of the greatest games to have come out recently. At the incredible price point of $5, you'll get more enjoyment out of this bad boy than a budget meal at KFC. The amount of content you get is absurd. I've sunk about 40 hours into this game, and if I could do it all over again, I would. There's 159 achievements for that game, and I've got them all. Usually with a number that big, there's some of them which act as padding for the more hardcore gamers out there. Oftentimes it'll come in the form of win 50,000 games under 1 minute with one character wearing this hat and so on and so forth. It's just a big boring grind, but not in Vampire Survivors. Every time you do something sick, you get an achievement. It's almost like a Pavlovian response to winning. You just want to keep going. I missed deadlines because of this game. It's addicting to the point where it should probably be considered a drug by the FDA, but don't count on it. It did take them 108 days to approve the vaccine. The creators of this game, Poncle Studios, made a masterpiece on their very first release. It's damn impressive considering some of the biggest studios out there came out with stinkers right out of the gate. I'm not even sure they fully understand how massive their game is. It's to the point where other people and studios are outright copying their formula because it works so well, and I don't blame them. Vampire Survivors is pure gameplay, like that scene in Breaking Bad where Walter synthesizes a 99.1 purity batch of meth. It's got everything good about roguelikes with an entry-level fit for a baby and a presentation as addicting as the most flashy Japanese arcade games. This is the kind of game you show to your friends who aren't into gaming and make them play it for 15 minutes so that they understand the appeal of the entertainment value it can bring. What's even better is the fact that you can get really deep into the mechanics of the game. You can be perfectly happy just playing it away, even if you've never touched a controller or a keyboard before, and honestly, that's just fine. But if you find yourself interested in how the game works, and you want to find out which combinations of weapons are the best, what characters work best with what weapons, how weapons function with each other, you can learn a whole bunch about it and get some really cool stuff out of it. Recently, Poncle Studios has made some great updates and changes to the games. The developers are active, and at the time of writing this video, they not only know what they're doing, they're executing on it. It's sad to say this, but in the current landscape of gaming, having an active developer listen to their audience and making wanted and needed changes consistently is a blessing. The simplicity of the game helps a lot in that regard. If they want to implement new characters, new weapons, new maps, they only have to design them, test them, and ship them. And it might have cost, what, 50 megabytes? Maybe 100. They've even released a DLC for half the price of the original game. For about $2 or so, it's a chock full of what makes the base game so amazing times 1.5. You get exactly what I described. New weapons, new characters, and a new map. Hours of potential gameplay for $2. A fucking McDonald's hamburger with no toppings is more expensive than that. And you can get the game and its DLC on the Xbox Game Pass if you don't want to spend the extra buck. This is not so much a review of the game as it is a love letter, but for the sake of the video, I can definitely find a few things here and there that kinda bother me. Don't worry though, it's really nothing crazy insane. I don't want a story mode or lore or anything of that nature. I'm not booting up Vampire Survivors to play a story. I'm playing Vampire Survivors because I want to create an ADHD-inducing bullet hell of a power trip. And that's great. I love that. It's amazing. I don't want more soundtracks or different versions of them. Nothing like that either. The music you've been hearing in the background so far are all tracks from the game itself, and let me tell you, there are some bangers on here. I mean, just hear this out. Oh, it's fucking... Hey, that's great, man. That's some good shit right there. It's just sick, like this mashup of retro 90s game music and different other genres, mostly rock though. Let's be real. You know what I want though? I want this game to flourish into its ultimate form. The developers consider Vampire Survivors a gothic horror casual game with roguelite elements, but I know in my heart of hearts that this could be the perfect gothic horror casual game with roguelite elements. Here's a few things that I think could be extremely useful. Something like an introduction cutscene or tutorial of some sort would be worth its weight in gold. There are a few cutscene-worthy sequences in the game already, and I don't think adding one at the beginning would be a source of contention. The ultimate goal of any casual game is to be so straightforward that anyone can come to understand it in a few minutes, maybe even a few moments, and this would help tremendously in achieving this. I believe the perfect casual game to be Tetris for that exact reason. You can explain the game in 2 phrases phases and people get it. It works at an instinctual level. Make the blocks fit, get rid of the lines. The goal Vampire Survivors needs to achieve next in its development is to make itself more accessible. Right now, the gameplay goes a little bit like this. Move around, kill enemies, gain gems, level up. And that's fine, I don't think it's that complicated. Making it more simple would ruin the depth the game already has. It's more so about holding out a helping hand to the people who don't have gamer instincts. That way, you can secure Vampire Survivors as the next stepping stone into the depths of gaming right after Tetris, but somewhere before Minecraft. A way to play with many players would do wonders for the game and its replayability. There is a reason why multiplayer games are some of the products with the most staying power in the market. Team Fortress 2 is a game that's been out for what, almost 15 years now, and people are still playing it because once you have an amazing product, allowing people to make and strengthen bonds with other people is an amazing way for them to associate your game with social interaction, which in turn makes them come back again and again when they want to hang out with their friends. I think the only difficult part about this would be the splitting of gems between the players, but an easy fix would be to double the amount of monsters that spawn and split the amount of gems dropped by 4. That way you hopefully get an even split between the two players, and if they don't have an even split, that's fine. It brings funny shenanigans into the mix, what's not to like? Finally, I think the addition of the relics, the arcana system, and the different modes like hyper and unending are amazing. These add a ton of replayability to the game while simultaneously giving tangible goals to the player that they can achieve. I will say though, one thing did bother me a little, and it's the fact that I did have to go online several times to check the weapon combinations. I know this is technically a non-issue since the developers added a way to tell which weapon combines with which other one once you have the artifact for it, but reworking it or adding another artifact that would allow you to access the weapon combinations, what they do and how they work would be really cool, kinda like a grimoire of your accumulated gamer knowledge. That's one of the things the Binding of Isaac really needs too, but with all the items in that game, I can understand why it's not implemented there. But in Vampire Survivors, there is still a fairly small amount of accessible weapons and combinations comparatively, so I don't think it would be that bad of an investment time and money wise, especially if the game grows to be as big as Isaac. I love going into the bestiary to check out how many monsters I killed or which ones I haven't met yet, and a similar interface for weapons and characters would be really great. As I've said before, for people who have gaming experience, this seems useless. I get it, but not everyone will know to scour Google to find the appropriate version sheet to combine the correct weapons together. I could also go on to say that some changes or additions would be great to retroactively implant in the game, like the character-specific upgrades that the Moonspell DLC has given us, but honestly, even if they don't, it's not that big of a deal. It's more of a personal query than an actual thing that would make the game better, so I'm not gonna include it here as part of the reviewing process, although I would really like to see, I'd really like to see it, come on, it'd be cool. Imagine if every character had their own, like, you know, their own combo weapon and stuff. That'd be great. I mean, you know, that'd be amazing. On that note, I give Vampire Survivors the score of 9 out of 10. I might revisit this game later on since the developers are so active with their content drops, and hopefully I will be able to give it the 10 out of 10 it deserves. I really want to score it as a 10 out of 10, but I genuinely feel like there is still some room for improvement, however small that may be. In all cases, it's a damn good game, and you should go buy it immediately after you've subscribed to the channel and liked the video. I know for a fact your dumbass bought some ridiculous thing you barely ever use for more than $5 on Amazon, so why not spend it on something that's actually good for once? You know, make your mother proud or something. Alright, okay.